So how powerful is that the economy is going to get better, the world is going to have more hope, but inflation is going to continue to be a nightmare, okay, to deal with. And the one inflationary tool that hedges against it, you could actually go out and share with a family, a friend, a neighbor, and make a commission in doing it and actually receive it every month. That's powerful.
Introducing Zach Davis and Josh Anderson with the Sound Money Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Sound Money, Sound Principles. My name's Josh Anderson. Alongside me today is Zach Davis. How are you, Zach?
Good, Josh. Good to be here.
Man, Zach, it's a problem. It's the start of the new year, and apparently I'm such a moron. I don't even know how to start the dang podcast. I can't even hit the right buttons. It's been 2 weeks, and I'm an idiot.
See, you take a break, you start going backwards.
Yeah, that's apparently it. I couldn't even make this thing work. This board and my computer today, we got a real problem. But it is the start of 2025, and it's an awesome start to the new year. First week of January, and so Zach and I are really excited to be here today. We're really excited about a topic we're going to cover today, because for us, it's something that matters to us. It's something that means something to us. At the beginning of every year, we love to stop and reflect and look forward. And I think for me, Zach, I've, at least in the last 5 years, I've yet to see a time like we're about to embark on right now. We are starting into a time that I think is a renewed golden age of entrepreneurship. And I just think there's a new optimism in the world. We've talked about this on the podcast before, a renewed optimism going on in the world today. There's a feeling that's a little different. You and I have been, well, I can't even imagine this, but we've been stuck in board meetings, I think, for like to end the year and to start the new year. I don't even know how many days, 5 or 6 days in a row. This is the busiest time of the year for us, right? Closing out a fiscal year, starting new. And so you and I have been stuck in all of our companies in board meetings for the last week. And is it fair to say there's a different feeling right now in 2025?
Yeah, I think for sure. I mean, 2024 was pretty rough on people. 2023 was kind of rough on people, but it does just feel like, there's this, like you said, there's this renewed optimism in the world today. And even conversations with lots of my other friends and people that I know of, it just seems like there's this ray of sunshine that everybody's looking at, and the opportunity to maybe go do something different than what they did last year, right? And it's like this cloud or this dust had settled on everybody in 2024, and everybody got a little bit discouraged, and the environment was a little rough, particularly for entrepreneurs and business owners, which trickles down to everyone else. But it seems like there's a lot of hope and optimism, which is really, really good. And it's really, really fun to see right now.
And we're going to talk today specifically about how you can capitalize on that, right? You and I have been here before, right? This feels a lot like, to me, around 2012.
Yeah.
2012 to 2016. That's what this feels like to me. It just feels very similar to me. And we'll talk about that. We're going to talk about how you can capitalize on it, how you can win in it. But I want to start by, even to the point, right? We talked in previous episodes about the election and the Trump administration coming in, and we had a whole podcast on what could happen for entrepreneurs with Elon Musk and Vivek. But Zach, there was some big news that came out the start of January out of our neighboring country, right? And this just
the 51st state.
The first day of the new year. I
The
think.
51st, no, the 51st big news came out of the 51st state. You mean?
Yeah, the 51st state. Yeah, you got it. You got it. We got to be careful now, because that could be Canada or Greenland. I saw Greenland today is wanting to be the 51st state. But hey,
this guy's got goals.
I like it. Trump's got goals. But I think it's really telling, though. The Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau, he resigned this week. And I think it's really remarkable the reason he's giving that he's resigning, right? He's come out and said that his countrymen are depressed, downtrodden, and they've lost confidence in he and his party's ability to save them. That's the gist of what's happening there. And it's interesting to me because what this really comes back to for me is entrepreneurialism. You see, in the American election of 2024, we had people stand up and say, we want American principles of entrepreneurialism and innovation to rule the day again. And that opened up the world to say, we want the same thing. And Canada, the Canadian people, without an election, put enough pressure on their prime minister that he walked to a podium this week and said, our country is looking for a renewed optimism, and I'm stepping down as prime minister. What is your takeaway from that, Zach? Like, this is starting to happen across other countries too.
Yeah. And they say the president of the United States is the most powerful person in the world. He is the leader of the free world, right? And the reason they say that is because it almost doesn't matter what the United States does. You start to see all of these other countries start to do the same thing. Another one, Mark Zuckerberg, he comes out and makes all these statements about free speech. Where the heck did that come from? Right? From Zuckerberg. But he mentioned in his statement that I saw on Instagram was all these other countries are suppressive of their free speech. And as the United States of America became more and more oppressive, it sort of signaled to the other countries to get even more and more oppressive on their people. Well, it's the same the other way too. And for Trudeau to stand up and say, hey, I'm out, the countrymen don't want what I'm offering anymore, and they want optimism. What that tells you is the last 3 or 4 years, 4 or 5 years of what they've been doing in Canada and what's been happening in the United States, it's not what people really want. There's a small group of individuals who are really, really loud that have been pushing all of these different agendas, and the masses don't want that. And if people are saying, we want hope again, well, that's what they're telling you. I mean, the antidote to that is that there was no hope before. So you start looking back at all the other things that Canada was doing, all the DEI movement. And look, I'm not saying that we shouldn't be nice to people. Like, don't read into it, right? Yeah. But I don't want somebody flying a 747 that I'm sitting in that is not qualified to fly a 747 just because we have diversity, inclusion, or equity and inclusion policies that say we need to hire this many of this type of people, right? That goes against everything that capitalism and entrepreneurialism is. That is socialism. And socialism has proven not to work all over the place. And that's really what Canada is saying, in my opinion. The people are saying, we're tired of socialism, and we've been moving closer and closer and closer to communism through socialism. We're done. Like, we don't want that anymore.
And isn't that refreshing, right? The American people have said it. The Canadian people have said it. They say today, just a day after his resignation, that several European nations, the people are doing the same thing. And, that, to me, what that is a worldwide mind shift back to the principles that make exceptionalism, right? We've been told that exceptionalism is evil. And I'm here to tell you exceptionalism is great, right? As long as it's not used as a decisive or a divisive tactic, right? But exceptionalism at its core root is spectacular. We should want to be the very best version of ourselves. We should want to be innovative and creative. We should want to take control of our own opportunities. We should want to make our own path, right? And not rely on other people. That is what exceptionalism, and that's what America's embodied all the way back to the founding fathers. Even before that, it goes back to our grandfathers and great grandfathers who came across on the Mayflower, right?
It's human nature.
Thank you. It is
human nature to want to do better and be better. It just is.
And because of that, right, with this renewed optimism around the world, and with this renewed flavor for, I believe, what will become the golden age of entrepreneurialism, right? We've never had a time like this in front of us where opportunities were so readily available to us, where knowledge is so free flowing, right? Like, I'm amazed at what I can go look up with AI, ChatGPT. I am amazed that I can go dump large files, Zach, of financial data and ask specific questions to it and have it crank out amazing information for me that would take me weeks to dig out, right? And I get it in seconds. Like, so we have before us a golden age of entrepreneurialism about to be redawned. The real question is, I believe that maybe 5 to 10% of the people are going to take advantage of it. And then the 85 to 90% are going to sit on the sidelines and watch others and go, wow, why are they, man, they win all the time. Oh, they're so lucky. So let's take a minute today, Zach. Like, given that there's such a new idea around entrepreneurialism, what are things that listeners can do to really get engaged in the first quarter of 2025 to grow a small business, a home-based business, a new venture, an opportunity? What are some things they can do?
Well, I think there's people. I chuckled when you said that, actually, because I saw you've always heard the phrase, people say, "Oh, it must be nice." Must be
Must
nice.
be nice.
Right. I saw on Instagram this morning when I was mindlessly scrolling through that. Somebody said, I've been on my skid steer since 5 o'clock this morning, plowing snow, but nobody was out here at 5 o'clock saying that must be nice. Right. Entrepreneurialism, it is work, right? So like people they've been sitting on, I honestly believe, Josh, there are billions of dollars worth of ideas that have been born in the last couple of years that have not seen the light of day because the environment's been bad, right? And people are scared. And, I've mentioned it before, scared money don't make no money, right? And people are scared to go do things. So I think really that with renewed optimism, and I think the environment's going to change. I really do think policy-wise, there's going to be some things that are different because we have a guy that's going to be sitting in the White House now that the election was certified. Hopefully they get him in on the 20th and things go good. But he has a different mode of thinking than the previous administration. So they're going to act differently. They're going to put different policies out. They're going to do different tax incentives, good or bad. They're going to do something different. Well, the exciting part of that is there's all these ideas and dreams that have been thought of in the past years that have never come to light because people were scared. And so I think people just need to act, like put the plan together and get moving. Now, one of the big challenges I think for people is money. Inflation's still a problem. I mean,
very much so.
Somebody just mentioned, I don't buy eggs, so I don't know how much eggs cost. But I saw somebody complaining about the cost of eggs the other day that in town it was like $6 or $8 for a dozen eggs. That's a lot of money. So, I mean, money is still a problem for people. And when most people think about entrepreneurship or they think about starting a business, they think about going and, opening a franchise, or they're going to have to buy all this inventory, all these things. There's other models that are out there that can allow people to start a business very quickly, take advantage of some awesome tax advantages that have been built into the tax code to help people start businesses and give them some relief, that you don't have to have hundreds of thousands of dollars to get started. You can start with very little risk and a little bit of time, not have to quit your full-time job, and start learning those I can't even say it. How can I be one? Learning those principles of being a fat capitalist pig. Let's put it
There
that
you
way.
go. There
Okay?
you go, Zach.
You can start learning those principles without having to shell out a whole bunch of money. And you also have this built-in group of people that have an incentive for you to win, right? And to help you. One of the companies that we own and our partners on is 7K Metals, right? And it's a direct sales company where people can sell gold and silver, which is a great product right now for people to do, but it's not the only one out there. I mean, any type of a home-based business model right now, I know there's some people on here that be like, oh, that's not a legitimate business. Okay. It's created a pretty incredible lifestyle for a lot of people, and it's retired a lot of people, and it's given a lot of people who love their full-time job a way that they can make extra money and do the things that they love to do. So there's ways that people can go out and start being an entrepreneur and use their enthusiasm and this new renewed hope this year to really go win for their families. There's really no excuses, in my opinion, anymore.
I'm glad you brought that up because I really believe that the very best place for people to win is if you've never been an entrepreneur, if you're getting started in it, or you want to use this new renewed hope of optimism in the world, there's no better place than a home-based business. Like, that's just the reality.
Mm-hmm.
Very little risk, very low overhead. I mean, Zach, I've been stuck at my conference room table for the week before Christmas and after, I've probably been pitched 4 major companies, all would take an investment of $5 million or more, right? That's not reality.
We just got off the phone.
Before this podcast, we just hung up with a business deal being pitched to us for another $1 million, right? Like it's never ends. But people do not have access to that kind of money. Most people. So I've just seen it so many times, right? The place to win and learn those skills and do it is in a company like 7K Metals, where they actually provide all of the training and all of the back end and all of the customer service and the shipping and the fulfillment and the inventory for you, right? Like, where else can you win like that, where you can come in for very low money and get a business in a box and actually go build it, right? And then have you, as you just said, teammates that are invested in your success. Like it's just an ultimate win. And I'll just say this, Zach, one problem that we're still going to majorly have in 2025 and 2026, 27, 28, and 29, right? Like these are a 4-year problem. You're not going to get your hand on inflation in a short amount of time. The damage is, we printed too much money, okay? The US government and then other governments of the earth during COVID and post-COVID printed too much damn money. So you're not going to fix inflation in a month, in a year, in 5 years. We have a serious inflation problem. All we can hope for is the renewed optimism and the new regulations allow businesses to start thriving again. But I'm telling you, if you got an extra dollar, you got one extra dollar, do not keep it in your pocket and do not keep it in the bank. Like if it's a dollar that you don't need to spend, do not keep it in green bills. Do not keep it in a US bank account. I'm telling you why. It's inflating right now. They say, this is the other funny thing, Zach. They say that it's inflating at 6 to 8%. Okay. Well, that's an absolute bogus number. Okay. That's the same people that told us that the unemployment was the lowest it's ever been, that the GDP was the highest it's ever been, and that crime was the lowest.
Crime was lowest it's ever been.
Right. Like, only to find out that all those things were 180 degrees opposite. But
yeah.
But so when they say it's 6 to 8%, which is absolutely a farce, right? You mentioned eggs, right? They're up over 100%. Car payments are up now. They just said, this is a consumer index. Car payments are up 100% since 2023. Car payments. So that's a doubling. So if you had a car payment for $800 in 2023 and you replace it today, it's $1,600. If you had one for $400, that's real inflation. So I'm just here to tell you, if you're keeping any of your savings in the bank or in IRAs, I'm sorry, you're losing. You can't beat inflation. What does beat inflation? This is we're experts in this space. We know what we're talking about. Okay. History has shown the best place to keep that is in precious metals. Like, I'm sorry, you can't beat keeping it in 1 ounce gold coins. Okay. You can't beat that. I'm sorry. There's nothing that can beat the inflation protection of that commodity. Go back 5,000 years. So how powerful is that the economy is going to get better, the world is going to have more hope, but inflation is going to continue to be a nightmare, okay, to deal with. And the one inflationary tool that hedges against it, you could actually go out and share with a family, a friend, a neighbor, and make a commission in doing it and actually receive it every month. That's powerful, right? So like your message about 7K Metals, like it is unbelievable timing and opportunity in the world. But, yeah, go ahead.
And here's the thing. It's like, with your comment about inflation, I'm with you. I don't think inflation is going to soften a whole lot very quickly because there's really only 2 ways to really bring inflation down. And it's painful. It is going to hurt more to get it down than it is to leave it where it is. But it's only for a period of time, right? You either have to get rid of jobs in the marketplace or you have to raise interest rates. Neither of those 2 things are very fun to go through.
And you're going to reduce interest rates in the first quarter of the year.
Yeah, and that's actually going to accelerate inflation.
Yeah. Inflation is going to go up.
Yeah, and what's going to happen? People are going to go, okay, interest rates are down. I'm waiting to borrow on a home. So I'm going to go now and I'm going to borrow money on a home. What's that going to do to home prices? Going to shoot them back up. What's going to do to building supplies? Going to shoot them back up. What it's going to do to services and all the other ancillary things that go around that industry. It's all going to go up. So but here's the thing. Like, So there's this feeling of optimism, but I think there's this reality, sort of like a wet blanket still sitting on us, that is that inflation. But it doesn't mean you can't do something about your own situation. Sitting around and going, oh, it feels like there's this new hope and new ray of opportunity. This is really good. My life circumstances are just going to automatically change because we have a new president in office or these policies change. No. You have to go do something about it. I think what we're saying is the environment now is right if you go take action, right? You can't just sit here and go, oh, my taxes are going to be lower, so that means my financial situation is going to be better. No, the hidden tax that we're all really paying is inflation, and that's not going to fix very quickly. So people have to go take action and do the work. That's the one thing I'm a little bit nervous about for America right now today, because ever since coming out of COVID, the American people have been being fed spoonfuls and doses of don't do anything and we'll just pay you. People have gone home to do their jobs. I mean, look at what's going on with Trump trying to force everybody to go back on these federal jobs, to go back to the office. Nobody wants to. They're all claiming that they're going to quit. I mean, so there is this temptation to just sit and think it's going to get better, but we can't. Innovation requires effort, and innovation is where real capitalism shines, not corporate capture type of capitalism, not monopolies, not these huge hedge funds, not these great. I'm talking about raw capitalism in its truest form, which is what everybody listening to this podcast, if you go find a home-based business, that is true capitalism, entrepreneurialism, right? And you go do the effort and learn those principles and things will change for you quickly.
Yeah. And that's the real key, right? You putting in effort, you putting in action, and then protecting against inflation, right?
Yeah, 100%.
I had a unique conversation in December, Zach, with a gentleman who you're wearing our Sound Money shirt, right? You're wearing a Sound Money shirt right now. Sound Money is a unique venture that we have, right? Where people can buy fractional ownership in gold and silver, store it in our partner vaults around the world. And at any time, right, request either physical distribution or liquidation, at the highest buyback prices that can be found. And it's just an ease of use. Like it's so simple, right? Because it's so simple, it has tens and tens of thousands of customers, right? One of those customers, I was interested to know, right? Like they had made a purchase at Sound Money last March, and the purchase was for around $300,000 worth of gold and silver combination. And I wanted to know, right? Reached out to find out what their situation was, because come this December, they liquidated all of their assets, right? And I thought it was a unique thing, just because what they had bought was around just under $300,000, and when they liquidated, they received just over $400,000, right? And so I was really curious, like, as an entrepreneur, yeah, it's way fun. But as an entrepreneur, you want to know what's the motivation behind this process, right? Was this just a short-term way to make money? Was this a hold? And so talk to this gentleman, and he said something so unique to me about this, like what we're talking about right now. And he said, I sold a second home last year in March. The economy was so bad where he was, that inflation was runaway, and what he wanted to buy with that, he wanted to upgrade. He couldn't, right? Like the amount of money that, this $300,000 that he received for sale of this older home, second home, and what he wanted to upgrade to was going to cost $600,000. And when he went to the bank to do it, there was no way, even putting the $300,000 down, that he could get a $300,000 loan and make the monthly payment. He's like, I need it to be $400,000 or a $200,000 loan instead of a $300,000. And he said, inflation. He said, so I sold the property with full intent of upgrading my second home for me and my wife in retirement. And after I sold it, the reality was I could not, with my retirement income, buy the secondary home we wanted. And he says, I was so depressed, I was so distraught that I didn't know what to do, but I knew I couldn't go put that money in the bank and just leave it. And so he went to Sound Money and he bought gold and silver. Okay. Fast forward to December 15th. He went and looked at his account and he went, oh my goodness, if I liquidate now, it's going to be $420,000. Then he went back to the bank and said, hey, instead of $300,000, if my dream property, if I put $420,000 down, what does that do to my payment? Magically, it got his payment back to what it was before, what he was looking for. And he was just beyond grateful, right? I did not expect this story, right? I totally expected when I got a hold of this guy that he was going to say, no, it's just a short-term deal. I bought gold and silver and I was looking to make some profit and I made it, right? But the reality was so much better. He couldn't get what he wanted. If he would have left that money in the bank, that reality never could have happened. Inflation would have continued to eat it. It would have bought less in the marketplace. It just so happened that gold and silver rose dramatically from March until December, right? It's not magic. It's just when inflation goes up, so does gold and silver, right? That's just how the world works, right? And your purchasing power is maintained. And I just look at that and I go, wow, I wish more people knew. I just wish more people knew that it's not always about how much money you make, right? Like we're talking about renewed optimism and ability to go out and build a secondary income in a home-based business or in some other mechanism or inside your business. But you better have a vehicle that you can go put it in that can maintain its purchasing power, or you're no better off.
Yeah, I mean, it's not always about how much money you can make; it's how much can you keep, right? And it's a double-edged sword. It's not only inflation, but it's also taxes, right? Yeah. Do you have tax shelters, right? Do you get to leverage the incentives the government has built into the tax code, so that you don't have to give all your money away to the government, right?
Exactly.
And are you protecting it from inflation? And by the way, this is not investment advice. I'm not saying if you go buy gold and silver, it's going to shoot up and you're going to make a ton of money. But that's been the reality for the last several years because of the inflationary environment. And the true reality is whether your gold goes up or whether it goes down is irrelevant if you truly understand the economics of the fiat dollar. Right?
Exactly.
It's what it really is it's insurance, and it maintains its purchasing power. So you may have less of it, but if you'd held that money in green bills, you'd have significantly less purchasing power. Because I mean, think about real estate. I have a brother that was telling me a couple years ago, he's like, you got to sell your house, man. I can get you so much money out of your house. I'm like, but I got to buy and sell in the same market. If I sell my house today, I have to rebuy or rebuild another house in the same inflationary market. So really the value of my dollar goes down, not up, right? Because it's been sitting this real estate. Now is not the time to get this cash out. Gold and silver, it holds the purchasing power. So it's like insurance for your money, right? And by the way, that because you mentioned SoundMoney.
Yeah.
This has been an incredibly fun project, by the way, to work on. Probably, I mean, 7K and SoundMoney and VaultMax, these different companies, they have been super exciting because of the innovation that we've been able to put in and the robotics and the AI that we've been able to leverage and the technology that we've been able to figure out when there's like really super smart people in the world, big companies that could not figure out what we were trying to do. And our people figured it out. Yeah. Right. And so that gold that you held up, that gold coin. So how much is that worth today in the marketplace?
$2,900, $2,880, $2,900.
About $2,800 today, right? Yeah. So for the average person who wants to go buy that, it's pretty intimidating. Yes. This is why I love the SoundMoney project so much, because most people understand they should buy gold and silver, and most people want to, but they're afraid of getting taken advantage of because they've all had the pawn shop experience, right? Where they go to the pawn shop and they're like, what is this? How much do I buy? And they overpay for it, or they've tried to sell it back. I mean, we just met a guy down in Mexico when we were on a trip who his uncle left him 24 pounds of gold, right? And he took it to the pawn shop and they would give him about 50% of what the actual value really was. That's the thing people are nervous about gold and silver. The reason I love the SoundMoney project is because if someone wanted to buy that coin right there, Josh, if they wanted to buy that, they'd have to spend around $2,850 to $2,900 today. Well, we just went through Christmas. Most people put that $2,900 on a credit card to buy Christmas gifts, right? But with the Sound Money program, it doesn't matter if you have $29 or not. Like, it takes all the excuses away to start building something. You can go buy gold for $1, right? Not, let me rephrase that. You can go buy $1 worth of gold and build up, right? If you have $5, you can go put $5 in. If you have $100, you can go put $100 in. And then Sound Money buys the gold in your behalf, stores it at their vault. When you reach enough that you want it shipped to you, you can have it shipped to you. Anywhere along the way, if you never make it to a full ounce and you need to resell that because you got to pay bills, you can resell it. Like, to me, it is an incredible product because it gives people the power to use the liquidity value of gold and silver that we've never had in the marketplace before and fractionalize it. It's incredible.
Yeah, I actually, at Christmas time, Zach, a week before Christmas, I was at a wrestling tournament in Boise, Idaho, and 2 weeks before, sorry. And this gentleman came up to me. I didn't know him. I'd never met him, right? And he said, called me by name. He said, Josh Anderson. And I kind of look around, and I looking around, I go, man, I don't know that guy. You know, we were about 30 feet apart. And he comes running down out of the stands, and I'm like, oh, great. What's he going to do? Wants to fight me, you know?
Well, it's highly likely at a wrestling tournament.
Yeah, highly likely. And I'm in charge of wrestling for the whole state of Idaho, so that sometimes can happen. I thought, oh, great. Here's somebody's going to complain to me about the referees today, or about the tournament, or about how things are going, or, you know. And he just, with pure joy, he said, hey, I want to say thanks. You guys just mailed me a gold coin. And I went, oh, he's not here to yell at me about wrestling. He's part of, I didn't know, 7K or Sound Money. And then he proceeded to tell me, he said, no one in my family has ever owned an ounce of gold. No one has ever owned. He said, go back in time. Nobody's ever owned an ounce of gold. He said, 2 years ago, I started putting away $50 at a time. And I just decided to have one of them shipped to my house. And he was like so elated, right? And I just know this about gold, right? It will change him as a man forever. Saving for it, buying it, getting it, keeping it will change him forever. Change the way he thinks, change what he buys, how he does business. And so, yeah, to your point, right? Like, the ability to buy that fractionally and have it accumulate was like, and I have no doubt, right? This is kind of sad, right? I got the gentleman's name, but I just can't remember it. That's terrible. I should have wrote it down right that minute, right? But it is, to your point, right? It's a really powerful thing, and probably one of the funnest projects we've ever been a part of, because of what it does like that, right? To somebody that never owned it, and nobody in his family's ever owned it, he's now protecting himself against inflation. So, well, Zach, in closing the day, we got opportunities, first quarter of 2025. Closing thoughts today to somebody that's out there that's maybe they've listened to the podcast, they're not a business owner yet, or they maybe own a home-based business, or they're just starting something on the side. Last parting words today of what they should do right now.
Don't sit on it. Don't sit on the idea. If you have an idea, start it. If you don't have an idea, then get involved in something like this, right? It doesn't have to be 7K. There's lots of other different opportunities out there that you can do, but just do something. Put the effort and the work in. The comment, that I made earlier is, wouldn't it be nice, right? Well, yes, it takes people years to become an overnight success. You have to do the work, guys and gals. Like, that's just the truth of it. It's not just going to fall in your lap. Well, it might fall in your lap, but the odds are it's probably not going to fall in your lap. So you're going to have to go do the work. So, this is a great time. We always talk about goals at the beginning of the year. Get real serious about it. Set some goals for yourself of where you want to be financially in the next 5 years. Map it out for yourself. Get involved in something like this, or start a business, or if you're employed and you have no desire to own your own business, a home-based business is a great way to be able to get involved in something like this. Or just set some goals to enhance your value at your own employment, right? But this next 4 years, I believe, is going to be an incredible year for those who actually go out and put the effort forth, and they plan and they execute. The people that sit around, they're going to get the same result that they got in the last 4 or 5 years, right? So nothing's going to change for them just because an administration changes. But you create your own economy, whether it's a blue economy or a red economy sitting in the office or the Oval Office in the White House. You have to do something about it, right? So just start, get moving. Don't think about it anymore, and go do something and win for your family. It'll be amazing.
So Zach, hearing you say that, it's changed my thought for the end of the podcast. And that's, over the course of my life, we have lots of people that come to us and ask for business advice, right? There's a gentleman who came to us, 15 or better years ago. And, he shared with me over and over how he had been passed over at his job, that he had been looked over because he didn't have a bachelor's degree, and that he was 1 year away from finishing it. And he had young kids, and it was hard. And I kept telling this friend, right? I kept saying, just go back to school and finish it. Like in your career, in his line of work, he could not move any higher in the company, even though he was the very most qualified when it came to the job. He couldn't move any higher. And he just said, I don't have the time. I can't fit in the time to go finish that degree at nights or weekends. And now I fast forward, it's been another 15 years and he's still stuck where he was. Right. And it's always reminded me that time is always going to march forward. The best time to create action and activity is always today. Like, I've been reminded lately, right? My wife was lamenting this summer to me. She said, I wish that I can't wait until these trees are bigger, right? I planted 400 trees that are like 6 feet tall 2 years ago, and they grew like a foot, right? And she said, I can't wait till they're bigger. And then she said, I wish we would have planted them 5 years earlier, right? The point is, today's always the day, right? Today's the day for action. Zach and I, we have one business we're involved in that for almost 8 years has never made any money. He's laughing because he can automatically know what it is, right? By the way, we own like 15 or 20 businesses together. So for him to laugh right off.
I know exactly the one you're talking about.
We have had it for about 8 or 9 years, and it's never made a penny, right? But we were talking the other day, and it's about a year and a half away from making great money for the rest of our lives. And if I could look back, has it been a pain? Has it been hard? Has it been difficult? All these things? Yes. But if starting in a year and a half, when it pays us really good money for the rest of our lives, would we look back and say, we should have never done that? No way. It was worth getting started 9 years ago. I guess at 9, almost 10, you'll be 10 years in May. The real important thing, starting in this age of entrepreneurialism, is, like Zach said, get involved, do it, run, pick something, sprint with the opportunity. And you'll look up and you'll go, wow, I can't believe, look at this. Look at all these shade trees that are 30 feet tall in my life, right? And just don't be like my good friend and Zach's good friend who just waited and never did it and has to look back and say, dang, the time went by. I should have invested that year 15 years ago, because this is the year to invest. Invest in you, invest in your opportunity. And we can't wait. Like, do me a favor, like send us a note, send us a message on our Instagram page or on Spotify or YouTube, and let us know what you're gonna do this year. Like, what are you gonna do this year? What are you gonna do to take advantage of the opportunity that's before you? We'd love to hear it, and we'd love to share it with other people. So, Zach, it's been great to be with you today. We look forward to next week's episode of the Sound Money, Sound Principles podcast, and all of our listeners have a great week. Appreciate you.
Yep. See you guys. Thanks for being on with us.